What's up, everybody? We are here talking about Studio One 5. That's right, there's a new update out. Presonus likes their Studio One updates, and this time it's a big one. We got version 5. I think a lot of people have had a lot of wishes of what they could include to make it even better, and I think it's a great DAW. That's why I use it. This is not a full video explaining everything that's in Studio One 5. This is more like a quick reaction video to kind of give you my thoughts on some of the features they've included. I'm gonna make more videos about this, I just don't want to rush it right now. I haven't had the time to really dive into any of the new functions, and I really don't want to bullshit you with experiences that I haven't had so far. So here are my thoughts on some of the new features they've included. Alright, so first and foremost, we have a show page right now. I think a lot of people are gonna really make good use of that. Right now, we're kind of in the middle of a pandemic, if you haven't realized that, and live music is pretty much dead at the moment. But that doesn't mean it's not going to come back in the future. I think a lot of people want to keep their workflow in Studio One. So far, the most popular live option, of course, has been Ableton Live. And maybe this will keep more people kind of in the Studio One sphere. That's not a plug. Just realize that, I mean, in the whole Studio One ecosystem, if you want to call it that. And actually use that for live performances as well. I think this is a really smart move by Presonus. The live market is, for a lot of people, way more lucrative in terms of income than studio work, so why wouldn't they get more into the live business? They're already in it with all their mixing gear and monitoring gear and whatnot. And now Studio One also supports that live part of music. From what I've seen so far, the main draw for this new show page is that you can organize your whole show into different blocks, have different performers in there. So if you have a live guitar and you want to play it through Studio One, you can do that. You can make up patches that switch automatically in between songs or even song parts for your VST instruments that you want to play on stage, but also maybe for some vocal effects that you run through your DAW. I think a lot of people are going to have a lot of fun with this. I think also Logic came out with something similar not too long ago, so I think a lot of DAWs really push into that live market right now because it is so popular. Makes total sense, and I'll definitely check it out. We got updated native plugins. I think this has been a long way coming. Studio One has never been the best looking DAW. I've worked with Logic for a while, and say about Logic what you want, but it has a very clear and understandable user interface. I think is the main draw towards Logic. That's pretty simple to get into, and everything just looks good. You know, it's Apple. They know how to design things, and I think Studio One and Presonus really stepped up their game with this one. The new plugins, they look great. Some of their analog emulations, they look very cool, and we'll see how they are to work with. There's also something really cool that I like that has been kind of missing from Studio One so far, and that is a dynamic EQ. You could do some of the things with the multiband compressor, but I think the dynamic EQing is just a little more manageable for me personally, so I do it more than sidechaining multiband compression. So for example, you can now sidechain the EQ, the Pro EQ, I think it's called Squared now, to a kick drum, for example, but only in a specific frequency range. So that is a very cool new thing, and I'm going to check out all the plugins that they kind of redid. They all look great. We'll see how much functionality they've added. Big thing, we got clip gain envelopes. Yes, please. A lot of people that I've talked to said that Pro Tools, which I don't think is the most up-to-date DAW, fight me on that, but I stand by that. The editing is really good apparently in it, and one of the reasons is because you can do kind of like, call it automation curves on clips and events, and we just got that. Studio One 5, great job. I love it. I love that you can see the waveform changing, because if you automate a fader on a track, you can't do that. The fader just moves, the audio waveform doesn't. So this is a great new feature. It's like super simple, super basic, but I'm so happy that they've included it, and I'm gonna be using this a lot. Another really, really cool thing, mixer scenes. For me, in my workflow, I like to save projects or productions when I'm happy with it. So if I'm working on a mix, for example, along the way, I like to save it as a new project to kind of just like have those points to go back to when I was happy with it, because sometimes I just screw things up because I work on them longer and don't really make them better. And then I like to go back to those earlier versions. And now in a way you can pretty much do that in the mixer section, at least, of the song. Really cool feature, and I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, everybody out there, put in the comments, but I don't think a lot of other DAWs have that, if any. Good job, Presonus. Another awesome thing that they did, I think, especially for a lot of people who might not have a lot of cash to spend, is that they've included VST and audio unit support for their artist version. Who knew? So far you couldn't do that, and now you can. Another thumbs up from me right here. A thing that I should note here, I feel like, is that they haven't added 5.1 surround sound support. I personally don't have a use for it because I don't work in film or TV, but a lot of people do. And this is a weakness of Studio One that I think they should really get to, because it is a huge market for people to do film and TV productions as independent contractors. That's just how it works. And guess what they're never going to use? Studio One. So better get to that. Speaking of more scoring and classical music, they have added, yes, thank you, they have added normal standard notation view to Studio One. I think what happened in the past is they really wanted to sell Notion, I think is what it's called, Notion licenses. And I personally would say that that is kind of a sleazy move, because you know that a lot of people want that standard notation view. And so far they haven't gotten it just with Studio One, which is kind of ridiculous in my opinion. So a great thing that they've added it. You can also do a lot of dynamics and articulations in it, which I think is great. It translates to MIDI, which is great. They also added lanes for articulation, so you can draw in your articulations on key switches. Something I personally don't use much because, don't have a lot going on with like classical instruments, but I do use it from time to time, and it makes a lot of sense to kind of visualize those key switches better. Another thumbs up. Good job. And the last thing I want to talk about is they now have added drag and drop support for external instruments. I don't personally work with external instruments, but I feel like this is gonna speed things up for people who work with maybe more analog vintage synthesizers, something like that, external drum modules to get like a different kind of sound. I think this is a really cool idea. Small little update, not gonna be very useful to me, so I don't really have a way to check it out here myself, but I feel like very cool for a lot of people. So, Studio One 5 is here. Kind of went through a couple of the key functionalities in my opinion. And like I said before, I'll definitely check them out. Make more videos. Please subscribe. If you like this video, press the like button. If you didn't like this video, then screw you. Just kidding. There's also a dislike button that seems to work out just fine. Thanks again for watching. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye.